If a woman's beauty makes you forget your own name, be very careful. You might just forget how to see the sun. Three wealthy men married her. Three men full of life, power, and vision. But within 6 months of slipping a ring onto her finger, every single one of them woke up in total permanent darkness. They lost their sight, they lost their wealth, and they lost their minds. This is the chilling story of Juliet, a woman whose beauty was a trap and whose heart was made of pure betrayal. Grab a seat, you will want to hear every single detail of this. In the bustling city of Enugu, where money spoke louder than morals, Juliet was a name that commanded attention. She was not just beautiful, her beauty was hypnotic. She had skin that looked like polished bronze, eyes that could make a grown man stammer, and a quiet, graceful walk that made people stop and stare. But Juliet had no known family, no village she claimed proudly. She appeared in the city like a spirit, renting a massive apartment and living a life of quiet luxury. Chief Okafor was the first to fall. Chief Okafor was a billionaire importer. He had warehouses filled with goods and properties scattered across the country. He was 55, a widower, and a man who believed money could buy the world. When he saw Juliet at a high society wedding, he told his friends, "That woman will be my wife, whatever it costs." Juliet played hard to get. She did not ask for money. She did not ask for cars. She only gave him soft smiles and gentle conversations. This drove Chief Okafor crazy. Within 3 months, he brought his kinsmen to pay her bride price. Since Juliet had no family present, she claimed her parents were late and her relatives were estranged. Chief Okafor didn't care. He paid the dowry to the elders she hired to stand in for her. The wedding was the talk of the town, but the celebration did not last. Exactly 4 months into the marriage, Chief Okafor started complaining of blurry vision. He would rub his eyes during dinner, telling Juliet, "My eyes are itching me. It is like there is sand in them." Juliet would softly wipe his face with a damp cloth, her voice dripping with fake concern. "My husband, don't worry, I will book an appointment with the best eye doctor in London." But they never made it to London. 1 week later, Chief Okafor woke up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. He screamed, "Juliet, Juliet, turn on the light. Why is everywhere so dark?" Juliet was sitting right beside him. The bedside lamp was on. She looked at his panicked face, her expression completely cold, and whispered, "The light is on, my husband." Chief Okafor was completely blind. He was flown to India, to the UK, and to America. The best doctors examined his eyes. They ran scans, MRIs, and nerve tests. The results baffled every single medical professional. Physically, his eyes were perfectly healthy. His optic nerves were intact, but he could not see a single thing. It was a medical impossibility. While Chief Okafor sat in darkness, crying and depressed, Juliet was busy. Because he could no longer manage his businesses, she smoothly took over. She had him sign power of attorney documents, claiming it was just to keep the business running while he recovered. Once the papers were signed, Juliet emptied his accounts, sold three of his most valuable properties, and filed for divorce. She vanished, leaving a once powerful billionaire completely blind, broken, and bankrupt. You would think Juliet's reputation would scare men away, but men are visual creatures, and arrogance is a deadly disease. 2 years later, Juliet relocated to Abuja. She changed her wardrobe, bought a new Mercedes, and stepped into the real estate business. This was where she met Obina. Obina was a young 32-year-old tech millionaire. He was arrogant, flashy, and believed he was smarter than everyone else. When he started parading Juliet around as his fiancée, his close friend, Chike, pulled him aside. Obina, are you mad? Chike warned. Do you not know who this woman is? This is the same Juliet that married Chief Okafor in Enugu. The man went blind and she cleared his wealth. People are saying she is cursed. Obina laughed loudly. Chike, you watch too many Nollywood movies. Chief Okafor was an old man with high blood pressure and diabetes. Of course, his health failed him. I am young. I am healthy. Juliet is a prize, and I am going to marry her. The warning fell on deaf ears. Obinna married Juliet in a lavish destination wedding in Dubai. For the first 5 months, Obinna bragged to his friends, look at my wife, look at my life. Are my eyes blind yet? He would joke, mocking the rumors. But in the 6th month, the karmic cycle demanded its due. It started with a severe headache. Obinna visited the hospital and they gave him painkillers, telling him it was just stress from looking at computer screens too much. 3 days later, Obinna was driving his G-Wagon on the highway when his vision suddenly snapped to black. He slammed the brakes, causing a massive pileup behind him. He stumbled out of the car, screaming, rubbing his eyes frantically. I can't see. God, I can't see. When Chike rushed to the hospital to see him, Obinna was weeping like a child. He grabbed Chike's shirt. You warned me. You warned me, Chike. My eyes are gone. When Chike went to Obinna's mansion to find Juliet, the house was empty. The safes were open. The luxury cars were gone. Juliet had struck again. The betrayal was complete. Juliet's wealth was now staggering, but the curse she carried was a hungry entity. It required a constant supply of human vitality, and Juliet needed a new host. She moved back to Lagos and set her sights on a man named Emmanuel. Emmanuel was different from the others. He was not an arrogant show-off like Obinna, nor was he an impulsive spender like Chief Okafor. Emmanuel was a grounded, highly respected architect. He built hospitals, schools, and massive estates. He was a good man, loved by his family, especially his mother, Mama Nkechi, who was a deeply spiritual woman. When Emmanuel met Juliet at a charity gala, he was mesmerized. Juliet played the role of a modest, heartbroken widow. She told Emmanuel a fabricated story about how her previous husband had died of tragic illnesses, leaving her lonely and misunderstood. Emmanuel fell deeply in love. He felt an overwhelming urge to protect her. But when Emmanuel brought Juliet home to introduce her to his mother, the atmosphere changed instantly. Mama Nkechi did not smile. She did not hug Juliet. She simply stared at the beautiful woman standing in her living room, her eyes narrowing. As soon as Juliet left, Mama Nkechi locked the door and faced her son. Emmanuel, she said, her voice shaking with an unnatural fear. Who is that woman? Mama, that is Juliet, the woman I want to marry. Emmanuel, listen to me, his mother cried, grabbing his hands. That woman is not a human being. When she walked into this house, I did not see a woman. I saw a walking graveyard. I saw darkness wrapping around her neck. You cannot marry her. Emmanuel sighed, frustrated. Mama, please. She has had a hard life. People have spread terrible rumors about her, but she is a good person. I love her. Despite his mother's intense protests, Emmanuel's mind was made up. The marriage took place, though Mama Nkechi refused to attend, staying in her room to fast and pray for her son's life. To understand the horror unfolding in Emmanuel's house, we must understand where Juliet got her power. Years ago, before the designer clothes and luxury cars, Juliet was a wretchedly poor village girl. She lived with her older sister, Chiamaka. Chiamaka was a hardworking trader who took care of Juliet, paying her school fees and feeding her. But Juliet was deeply envious. She hated their poverty. She wanted to be a queen. One night, Juliet visited a dreaded shrine deep in the evil forest of their village. She sought out the chief priest of a forgotten dark deity. She demanded wealth and irresistible beauty. The chief priest laughed a horrible dry laugh. Beauty and wealth do not come free, my daughter. The deity will grant you a face that no man can resist. You will draw wealthy men to you like moths to a flame. But to maintain this power, the deity requires a continuous sacrifice of light. What light? Juliet asked. The light from the eyes of the men who look at you with lust. You must marry them. Once the marital blood oath is sealed, the deity will slowly consume their vision. When they go blind, their wealth will automatically transfer to you spiritually and physically. But there is a catch. The chief priest leaned in close. To initiate this curse, you must betray the one person who loves you the most. You must offer their soul to open the doorway. Juliet did not hesitate. The betrayal came from Juliet completely. That very night, she poisoned her older sister, Chiamaka, the only person who had ever truly cared for her. She watched her sister gasp for breath and die on their mud floor. The pact was sealed. Juliet became a monster, wrapped in flawless skin. Back in Lagos, the clock was ticking for Emmanuel. It was the fifth month of their marriage. Emmanuel was sitting in his home office, looking over architectural blueprints. Suddenly, the lines on the paper began to blur. He blinked hard, shaking his head. Juliet, he called out, can you bring me some water? My eyes are straining. Juliet walked in, carrying a glass of cold water. She smiled, but her eyes were dead. Take a rest, my love. You work too hard. Over the next 2 weeks, the blurring got worse. Emmanuel started bumping into furniture. He couldn't drive at night. Fear began to grip his heart. He remembered his mother's warning. He remembered the faint rumors he had ignored. One evening, Emmanuel was sitting on the edge of the bed. Juliet was standing in front of the mirror, brushing her hair. Juliet, Emmanuel said, panic rising in his chest. I can hardly see your face. Everything is becoming a shadow. What is happening to me? Juliet did not turn around. She kept brushing her hair, staring at her own beautiful reflection. Don't worry, Emmanuel. The darkness is peaceful once you get used to it. Emmanuel's blood ran cold. The tone of her voice was not comforting, it was mocking. But Emmanuel had something Chief Okafor and Obina did not have. He had Mama Nkechi. Mama Nkechi had not stopped praying. When she heard her son was complaining of eye problems, she did not suggest a hospital. She knew this was a spiritual battle. Without telling Emmanuel, Mama Nkechi traveled to a powerful genuine seer in a distant town. She explained the situation. The seer consulted his oracles and shook his head. Your son is married to an empty vessel. The seer revealed. She feeds on the sight of men. The betrayal is deeply rooted in blood, but she has made a mistake. She has overstayed her time in your son's house. The seer gave Mama Nkechi a small, tightly tied parcel containing specially prepared ashes and herbs. Do not let her see you, the seer instructed. When she is asleep, sprinkle this powder across the threshold of the bedroom door. If she is truly the source of his blindness, the powder will break the spiritual mirror she uses to reflect the curse. But whatever you do, your son must not look into her eyes when she wakes up. Mama Nkechi returned to Lagos that night. She used her spare key to enter Emmanuel's mansion. The house was dead silent. She crept upstairs to the master bedroom. Inside, Emmanuel was tossing and turning, his vision almost entirely gone. Beside him, Juliet slept peacefully, looking like an angel. With shaking hands, Mama Nkechi sprinkled the ashes across the doorway, muttering fierce prayers of deliverance. Suddenly, Juliet's eyes snapped open. She did not wake up normally. She shot straight up in bed, gasping for air as if someone was choking her. She looked towards the doorway and saw Mama Nkechi standing there. "What have you done?" Juliet screamed. Her voice did not sound human. It sounded like two voices overlapping, one female, one deep and demonic. Emmanuel woke up in a panic. "Mama, Juliet, what is happening?" "Emmanuel, close your eyes. Do not look at her," his mother commanded. Juliet leaped from the bed, trying to run out of the room, but the moment her foot touched the ashes at the doorway, she was thrown backward with a violent force. She hit the floor, screaming in pure agony. The room grew freezing cold. The spiritual mirror was broken. The curse was reversing. Juliet clawed at her own face. "My eyes! My eyes are burning!" she shrieked, rolling on the floor. As Juliet screamed, Emmanuel slowly opened his eyes. The heavy dark fog that had been blinding him for weeks was lifting. He looked at his hands. He looked at his mother. He could see clearly. He looked down at the floor. Juliet was writhing in pain, her flawless skin looking pale and sickly. "Emmanuel, help me!" she cried out, reaching her hands toward him. But Emmanuel backed away, horrified. He finally saw her for what she truly was. The betrayal had come from Juliet, and now karma had arrived to collect its debt. The deity from the evil forest did not forgive failure. Because the curse was broken before Emmanuel was completely blinded, the pact was shattered. Right there on the bedroom floor, Juliet lost her sight completely. But the punishment did not end there. The unnatural beauty she had traded her sister's life for vanished. Within minutes, her face aged rapidly, her skin sagging and wrinkling, matching the dark, rotten state of her soul. Emmanuel and his mother watched in stunned silence as Juliet, now totally blind and wretched, wept bitterly on the floor. The next morning, Emmanuel called the authorities and his lawyers. He froze all his accounts and reclaimed every single asset Juliet had tried to transfer to herself in his moments of vulnerability. Juliet was thrown out of the mansion. She had no money, no sight, and no beauty left to trap another victim. The women who saw her wandering the streets of Lagos could not believe that this old, wretched, blind beggar was once the most beautiful and feared woman in the city. Chief Okafor and Obina, though their wealth was gone, miraculously regained parts of their vision months after Juliet's curse was broken, realizing the monster they had invited into their homes. As for Emmanuel, he learnt the hardest lesson of his life. He built a massive church in his hometown, thanking God and his mother for saving him from a beauty that was designed to kill. The story of Juliet became a legendary warning across the country. Not everything that glitters is gold. Sometimes, the most beautiful faces hide the deadliest betrayals.